So this is an Electron app. It's a desktop application that I'm working on. I probably should have made a video sooner. I was sort of thinking about it while I was working on this. I'm probably a third of the way through building this app. Been working on it for a week. This is a week's worth of work. I've had several bad days of just not getting anything done, trying to configure Electron stuff. So first I'm just going to show you a little bit about what it does. So I own a photo lab. We print pictures that people send in online. Our ordering system puts stuff out into a specific file system. So each one of these folders over here is an order. Inside of the main order folder, is folders for each catalog of prints that we offer. So this is Luster Prints. And then actually there's two ways the folder structure can be. There could just be a catalog name, Luster Prints, and then inside of that would be size and quantity folders. This one looks like I have this ordering system set up to concatenate the two of them together, so you just have less folders to go through. This app should work either way, and what it's doing is looking at the folder names and it's parsing out a catalog. So this is Luster, which to us means a specific type of paper that it's going to be printed on. And then the size is within this, so an 8 by 10, the code is going to determine what the size is. And then at the end is a quantity. So these dashes, and then each is going to help the code over here know that this is one of each. So what folder am I highlighting on? 2338. If I highlight this, it'll say there's an 8 by 10, one of each, and there's two files inside. If we go back to the app, here are those two images. Down underneath the thumbnail, it tells you the file name, and then it tells you the catalog, Luster, so it sort of parsed that out. And then the size, 8 by 10, and quantity 1. And then down below, I have some buttons that I can add it to the cart. This one only needs one. We'll click 1. And now you can see it's over here in the cart. If I roll over the cart item, it shows me a larger one. Sometimes you end up with a lot of things in the cart and you need to see what they are. There's also a little delete button. I can delete it from the cart. Now my cart's empty and I have printers set up. So first let's just print something real quick. So these both need one each. Eventually there's going to be buttons at the top that will print everything that's the same size for you, and you won't have to do this. It's going to be tedious when you see, you're not going to want to go down here and click one each here and read the quantity. That's all going to be automated. I just haven't got that far yet. So where we were back here, we're going to order one each of these two files, and now we're going to print it to a machine. I have one printer set up. And it sent the job to the printer and it's done it successfully. When an image is printed, we keep track of some stuff. So we keep track of the history. We printed one print to the 39A a few seconds ago. If I hover over to tell you the exact date and time. And then here's a button to say that everything was normal with this one line item, or if I click it, it made it a redo, and then it jumped over here to the front of the queue, sort of. So if you had a lot of files in an order, the ones that have been printed get turned green in the background, and then they sort at the end of the list. And then if you accidentally print too many, so I've got too many of this in the cart, it knows that the quantity is 1, and I already printed one, and this one is normal. Now I've got one more in the cart. If I tell this to print, now this jumps to the first position because it's wrong, and you're going to want to figure out why it's wrong and make it right again by undoing one of them. Just a way to know that somebody made a mistake when they were printing it and they printed too many. And now you can see it's got more history down here. I've got a bunch of stats up here that I'm pulling in from a text file. They will eventually be neatly arranged over here, the ones that I think I want. And I'll also make it so that the customer's email is a clickable link and we'll open up an email to them. Let's go click on a different order with more images. I'm a little unhappy with the delay in loading the images. This isn't a particular large number of images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 32 images. Took a little while to load initially. I think it's going to be able to be faster in the long run. Haven't gotten there yet. So what else can we show? All right, this one came in from our ordering system and it says uncropped. Pretty sure if I tell this to print, it's going to error. Right, so there's no product size setup for this. I have a different idea of how I'm going to handle these, but I'm a long ways off from that. You can tell that the folder name for this sort of threw off the code. It can't figure out what the quantity is. That's something we'll get to. This, like I said, I'm maybe a third of the way, maybe I'm less than a third of the way into this. I'm not sure. I think I'm making good progress though. There's also a clear cart button up here to clear the cart. Eventually, you'll be able to double click an image and it will open up full screen so you can look at it. It should also give you more information about the files, like the file dimensions. I should also be able to do an approximation of the pixels per inch for the size that they ordered, although that will only work on ones that are uncropped like this because this is the customer's actual file. If it's an 8x10 like this and the customer ordered it with the cropping workflow, this is already an 8x10 at 300 pixels per inch, so that won't be able to do anything, but I think I'll be able to have it so you can double click this. It'll open up larger in the screen in a new modal. And then hopefully off to the right, I'll have a series of image adjustments, sort of like what you see in Camera Raw. Not as good. I've played around with it. I know I can do it. It's just going to take some time to do it. And then you would be able to color correct this sort of on the fly and then put it in the cart. The color correction would end up being in a database, so the original file wouldn't be changed at all. As it was sent to the printer, it would re-render it. And when you print it, it ends up making this command file. And that's my log. I don't know why when I open things, it opens up more than one notepad editor. So this file was created when we told it to print. And for this printer type, I have it set to a Noritsu, which takes in a hot folder, and it likes this format, and it will send it to the printer with a paper width, length. It's telling it the surface that came from the Luster catalog that was in the folder name. I'm pretty sure in the text file, the quantity is always 1, and then I changed the back print to increment so you can sort of keep track. If somebody ordered 20 of the same 8x10, you'd get an increment of 001, 002, and then when you print them, if something was missing, it makes it a little bit easier to find it. And then I do have a search thing, so if you printed a whole order and a couple of the files needed to be redone, let's see what something is unique. W1U. I think I need 4 characters. W1U. No, maybe not. And now it just pulled up this one file. You could do something to it. And then I probably need to... All right, we're back to the uncropped where I don't have a way to print that. Then you can just clear this to get back. I'll clear that. And then so far all I have is a home and a settings. That might actually be all there ends up being. Under settings, this is where I set up the folder to watch, and I gave it this name. If I go back to home, this name, SOS, is what this first folder is called. I could make another folder, and if you have multiple ordering systems, or if you have something like rows where it would push out different paths for you based on what the catalog name was or something like that, you could watch different folders. There will be an archive ability, so the goal is to always keep the source folder clean. Once you finish an order, the next day or 2 days later, they would get archived, or you could press a button to archive them all immediately, and then it cleans up the folder you're working on. There also will be a way, since that's going into an archive location, I'll have a way where you can pull back in an order into the main working folder. But that's not done yet. We'll cancel that. Same type of thing for the printer. You can have multiple printers. The printers have different types. I haven't worked on the darkroom command file or the regular hot folder. Darkroom also has a hot folder that you'd be able to do with just this hot folder, and it would take in, right, you choose a size here, and then tell it which hot folder location you want it to go to, and it will just drop that in. When you set up the printers, the re-render an image means it's going to run through a thing called Sharp, which does image processing. One of those things would be to sharpen something before it prints. Another thing is to set a custom printer profile. If I do Noritsu, I have rotate back print lines. Because one line there's 2 lines of back print on a Noritsu. One line for us is usually pretty short, so I have this rotate, and it rotates the 2 lines of back print every other day. They'll rotate, which, I don't know, might make the back print ribbon last a little longer. We've got a size rate. This is sort of a bleed setting on the Noritsu. When it sends the file to print, it'll zoom in or zoom out. Slightly less than 100 will give you a little bit more of the image on the print, but then you risk having a little sliver of white somewhere. What else? So that's the app. This is my code editor where I'm actually working on it. I got sort of 3 columns going on over here. The middle column is where my actual code is for any given file. And then on the left is where I'm having the AI basically do all of this. This is a little advanced for me. I'm pretty experienced at code, but I'm good at editing an existing project. I'm not a good architect for creating a project, but for this app, I sort of have a good idea of what I want it to do, and with the AI, I'm able to do a lot. So over here on the right, I can choose between different things. Currently, it's on a search. If I go back over here, folder view, you can see all of the folders I've made so far. So this is an Electron app, which is a JavaScript program that's made to run as a desktop application. So there'll be an installer for this that I can install it on multiple computers. It's all written in JavaScript and then has a node back end. And so when you look at my source folder here, I've got a config file that just has some sizes. Eventually, I think this is all going to be in a database. And then you have a main folder here. This is all back-end node stuff. And then there's this weird thing where you have to separate the renderer, which is the front-end UI. So all the stuff that I showed you, this is React, and this is the front end. The front end is not allowed to talk to the back end unless you do it in a specific manner, and that goes through this preload folder here with the index file. Basically, all of the functions that I want to use on the back end that are using the file system need to go through this, and then you have access to them in your main. So this is if you want to show a directory picker here in your UI, you need a bridge between the front end and the back end. In the back end, if you just want to do something, you can more or less do it directly because the back end is allowed to have access to the computer, like the hard drive and the file system and whatnot. It's kind of a lot. I'm learning a lot. It's pretty neat. I do already have a database, so I've got some models. This is going to be my model for when I get to the color correction. I should end up having exposure, saturation, temperature, tint, contrast, brightness, shadows. And I've tested all of these. I can do this. It's actually pretty neat. Looking forward to getting there. And then this is an order history table. That's what's controlling. When you look at an order and it tells you whether there's history or not, that's what's in that table. It's pretty simple. This is all in the database, and that's how it's able to do this stuff. So in the next video, hopefully I'll show you some of the trials and tribulations of what I've been doing. It's actually pretty neat to work on with the AI. The AI is pretty good at doing stuff. So maybe something we could do real quick is, it bothers me that these buttons aren't white when the rest of the screen looks like this. Doesn't bother me so much, but they probably should be white, so we could go look and see where this is. So I know where this is. Close out some of these files. This is in order inputs. If I press Control P, I can search for files. If I type in order, there's the order input. And here should be my buttons. All right. And so this is the button class name. This is using Tailwind for CSS. If I do BG white, and it's updated in the UI. Let's see what it looks like. And it didn't do anything. This is par for the course. Now we go back and see what it did. Aha, I only did the one add all button. Let's go back. And I don't have the add all button right. Eventually there's going to be an add all button in some views, maybe, where it would read the quantity and you'd be able to add them all at once. So I just did that to that button. Let's see. If we go up to this button, increment 1, class name, bloop, bloop. And let's see, we'll just highlight this, press Control D a couple of times. +1, +5, that gets us those two. Then we'll do the right arrow, paste, and then we'll just come down here and do this one, paste. Now maybe it'll be white. Right, so now they're white. I missed the trash can. Trash can. That looks better. So that's how I spend my day now. All right, so in the next, I think the next project I have for this, what are we going to do next? We got the images sorting by. So let's see, if I add this, needs 1, I tell it to print. That goes down to the bottom. I like that. What do we need to do next? Got the print history, got this toggling back and forth. I don't really like the toggles disappears. Sometimes when you do that on a bunch of them, it gets a little out of control because everything sorts. I might see if there's a way to do, maybe it needs an animation so it's not so instant or something. I'm not sure about that. I need to clean this up. Oh, there's also, so this is also kind of neat. This archive button. Let's see, we'll go to this bottom order. If I click archive on it, this means archive should be that you're done with this order and you want it to disappear. When we set up the folder, there was an archive delay. There's going to be a job that runs every day, and based on what the delay is, it's going to look at the timestamp of when this checkbox was checked. And if it's past the days, it's going to remove this and put it in the archive. Cool thing that it does is it makes this folder color green. And there might actually be a different color, orange, for something that has history on some of the items, but that isn't set to archive by the user. And the way that works, if you look at this folder here, is it made this archive file. And it's just checking in folders to see if there's an archive folder file. There's nothing in this file. It's a blank file just called .archive. If I uncheck this, then that file is going to be gone. And that's how it knows whether or not the order should be archived or not. It's kind of neat. I kind of like the way you could do stuff. I have the stats JSON file, which is populating all these stats here. That's coming from my ordering system. Also, eventually, in this stats file, I think, right, there's a color correction checkbox as they check out. I should be able to put a little alert here that'll say these files need to be color corrected. Same thing if the user making the order leaves a special instructions note. I should be able to display that in the UI here. Maybe we'll work on that next. I also need to work on the modal so that I can double click this image and have it open up in a new screen, and then that'll be the beginnings of doing the color correction. I also need to work on the other printers. Those should be easy. I think that's going to be easy. I want to do some of the hard stuff first. So that's it. Hopefully I'll make another one of these videos as I go along. Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to show. Just in case some random person out there is trying to do a Electron project with Sharp. Oh my god. This is what your package config in Electron, right, in your forge config file, you have this ASR line here, and I spent hours trying to get this right. Sharp, SQLite, and probably KNEX are special modules, and they can't be bundled in with the regular node modules that end up in this ASR file. ASR is sort of like a zip folder. You can't read it, but the application can, but it can't use these three things within there. So you have to tell them to unpack them, and then they get put some other place that it can read it. It's a little weird. And then this little after copy thing was helping me know whether or not something existed. I think there's another thing right down here you had to install this module to get that to work, because you have to have this other thing saying the same thing, that you need to keep these things external. And then I feel like there's another place where that is Webpack. Not in that Webpack maybe. Oh my god, this was hours of my life. All right, SQLite in particular needed to have this externals thing too. Oh my god, that was a pain. All right, that's it for now.